I used to fake exorcisms for a living. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But when you grow up, surrounded by desperate people in empty churches, you learn that belief sells better than miracles. My name isn't Father Marcus, though that's what everyone called me. It was part of the actrobe, cross, a few Latin words copied from the internet, and a look of quiet conviction that made even the most skeptical people tremble. I didn't start doing it to hurt anyone. At least that's what I told myself. People needed closure. Needed to believe that the strange noises in their homes, or the darkness in their heads, could be forced out with salt, candles, and Latin. I gave them that illusion. $100 here, a few hundred there. They'd cry, they'd thank me, and I'd go home, laugh, and drink to my cleverness. But everything changed one night when I walked into a farmhouse outside the city, a job that looked easy on paper but left me with scars I can't explain, and memories that bleed through every silence I try to escape. The call came on a Thursday evening, from a woman named Mrs. Reyes. Her voice was weak, trembling like she hadn't slept in days. She said her daughter Anna was acting strange, hearing voices, clawing at her own skin, saying things that didn't sound human. I almost told her to call a doctor, but then she mentioned the payment. $5,000, cash. That kind of money made the drive worth it. The directions led me out past the last set of streetlights, where the road turned to dirt, and the trees leaned in like they were trying to listen. By the time I saw the house, the sun was gone. The farmhouse stood like a shadow, cut out of the dark boards, nailed over the windows, the porch sagging, every step echoing like the house was breathing. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and something sour, metallic like old blood. The mother was sitting in the hallway, clutching a crucifix so tight her knuckles were white. She didn't say much, just pointed me upstairs where Anna was. I told myself it was another performance. I'd done dozens. I had my script, ready holy water, fake relics, incense, smoke to fog the air. I didn't believe in demons. I believed in fear, and fear was easy to sell. But the moment I saw that girl, I knew fear wasn't the product anymore, it was the room itself. Anna was tied to the bed, ropes cutting into her wrists. Her head turned toward the wall like she was listening to someone whisper through it. When I entered, her eyes didn't move. They were open, staring at nothing. I recited my usual lines, dipping my fingers into a bottle of water. I'd blessed myself with a smirk. "Spirit of darkness, I command you," she laughed before I could finish. It wasn't a child's laugh. It was too deep, too broken. The sound made the candles flicker and the shadows ripple across the walls. I thought maybe the mother had staged something, but then Anna spoke in a voice that didn't belong to her. "You're not a priest." My chest went cold, I stammered. But before I could answer, every candle in the room went out at once. I could still hear her breathing, but it wasn't steady. It was layered, like multiple voices tangled together. My first instinct was to run, but I stayed, convincing myself it was part of the show. I lit a match and tried to steady my hand. The flames reflected off her eyes, and for a second, I saw faces moving inside her pupils, faces that weren't hers. Hundreds of them, screaming soundlessly. I dropped the match. That's when she floated, just a few inches above the bed, her body arched backward, ropes snapping as if burned from the inside. And then she smiled. The lights came back on, but the shadows didn't match the room. They moved on their own. I shouted every fake prayer I knew, but the words twisted in my mouth. She whispered again, "You called us here." I woke up hours later on the floor, throat raw, head pounding. The room was empty, no girl, no mother, no ropes, just burn marks on the bed and the smell of sulfur thick in the air. My phone said it was 4 in the morning, though I'd arrived before 10. I stumbled outside, gasping for air, but even the night felt wrong. No crickets, no wind, just silence. My car started on the 3rd try, and I didn't look back. 4 days, I tried to rationalize what happened. Maybe they drugged me. Maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing, but that didn't he? He explained the burns on my wrists, shaped exactly like the ropes that had bound her. I deleted my website, threw out my props, and told myself I'd quit. I wanted to believe it was over, but the first night back home, I heard a sound in my apartment. It was faint, like a child humming from behind the wall. When I followed it, I found the same crucifix from that farmhouse hanging on my doorknob. I didn't take it there. My phone started ringing that moment. No number, just static. Then, her voice. "Father Marcus, can you help me again?" The line went dead. I stared at the phone until it went black, and in the reflection, I saw her smiling behind me. I turned, and the room was empty. The smell of sulfur returned, heavier this time. I barely slept. Every night after, something would happen, footsteps circling my bed, a hand brushing my shoulder, whispering from the corners where light couldn't reach, and always that same phrase, breathed against my ear. "You called us here." I tried to escape, packed my car, left the city, drove until dawn. The further I got, the colder the air felt, like I was driving into something that didn't want to let go. The car broke down outside an old church, abandoned but still standing. I went inside because anywhere felt safer than the open dark. The air was thick with dust and candle wax, but the altar was clean, as if someone had been there recently. I knelt, maybe out of habit, maybe out of guilt, and started whispering prayers I hadn't said in years. That's when I heard the creak of footsteps behind me. I turned, expecting nothing. But there was a priest standing there, old, thin, his eyes gray and sad. He looked at me like he'd been waiting. Without a word, he handed me a crucifix and said, "You've been marked." I didn't ask how he knew. I just confessed everything, the scams, the fake rituals, the lies. He listened silently until I finished. Then, he said something that froze the air. "You were never faking. You were inviting." I wanted to ask what he meant, but he'd already turned away. That night, I slept in the pews, clutching the cross. When morning came, he was gone. They found him later in the rectory. Heart attack, they said. But the walls, every inch of them, were covered in scratches, spelling my name. The police thought it was vandalism. Eek know better. I left that place before they finished asking questions, driving until the road disappeared behind fog. No matter where I went, mirrors started showing me what wasn't there, my reflections smiling before I did, moving when I stood still. Sometimes at night, I feel something crawling under my skin, like a breath that doesn't belong to me. I see faces when I close my eyes. Her face, multiplied, whispering from the corners of my vision. Now I live under a different name, in a town that doesn't ask questions. I avoid churches. I don't pray, but the voices never stopped. They've learned my silence, adapted to it. They hum through the wires, flicker through the lights, speak through static when the world goes quiet. I tried to record them once, to prove it wasn't just madness, but when I played the recording, all I heard was myself, whispering words I don't remember saying. Sometimes I find crosses drawn on my walls in ash. Sometimes the windows breathe when the wind dies. And every night, before the clock strikes 3, I hear her, the girl, whispering in the dark. "You called us here." I know what it means now. Every fake exorcism I performed, every invocation I mocked, every name I spoke for Muniet, wasn't just performance. It was a doorway. I wasn't pretending to drive anything out. I was calling it in. I don't think they ever left that night in the farmhouse. I think they followed me, clung to me like a shadow that learned my name. And if you're listening to this now, and you don't believe, don't laugh. Don't say it out loud. Because they're still listening through every word, waiting for someone else who doubts, someone who'll call them again without knowing it. I was a fake exorcist, but the possession wasn't fake anymore. Low heartbeat fading into static. If you still think demons are just stories, then keep watching, because the next tale waiting on this channel will make you pray your lights never flicker again.